Partnerships and collaborations for community networks. My name is Jane Coffin. I'm a senior vice president at the Internet Society. That's not the important part. The important part is that I work with people like all of you, Osama, Raj, Leandro, Anju, Sarbani, Ritu, and others who have built community networks and who are trying to connect people across the world. Today, we have these fabulous panelists with us. I'm going to give you a quick idea of who they are, and then we'll talk about what we're going to speak about with respect to community and partnerships. So we have Anju Mangal, who is with A for AI, a great partner of many of ours and one of the sponsors of this event. She's the regional coordinator for Asia, and her work focuses on strengthening A for AI's national coalitions and supports stakeholder collaborations to advance their shared goals and many of ours of affordable access across Asia. She's passionate about women in ICT and cyber safety for women and girls. She's a founding member of the Pacific Women in ICT, and you can read more about her on the landing page for the event. Next up is Leandro Navarro from Spain. Leandro is a great friend and colleague. He and I are co-chairs of an IETF research task force called Gaia, Global Access to the Internet for All. He has a PhD in telecommunications, and he works as a professor, an associate professor at UPC EDU in Spain, in Barcelona. Again, he's the co-chair of the Internet Research Task Force Gaia Group, and he's chair of the board of directors and member of the Association for Progressive Communications, another great partner of all of ours, and an organization that has been leading the way along with DEF and others on community networks around the world and training people technically and from policy regulatory side. The third panelist is Sarbani Belur, who's from India as well. Sarbani is the Asia Regional Coordinator for APC on the Community Networks Project. She's a senior research scientist from IIT Bombay, and she's helped put together the Grand Marg Rural Broadband Community Network. And she's a representative for the Networks Learning Grant. And you can read more about all of these fabulous human beings on the landing page that's been put together for the CNX. So the topic for today, and we have questions for all our panelists. We're going to do a bit of a speed round in a minute, but the topic is partnership and collaboration for community networks. For those of you just joining us who are new to this topic, community networks, while considered affordable, and something to participate in terms of local participation, they also require the involvement of multiple stakeholders for success, for getting off the ground. Those range of community networks, the issues can range from financial organization assistance, donor backing, to technological assistance, assistance with policy and regulatory issues, and getting to know how to try to get that money or work with the governments or work with your local authorities. So this session is designed to understand how different stakeholders, all of the great panelists here, can come together to make community networks successful. And we're going to look into ways to enhance collaborative efforts and partnership across different stakeholders. And so I am going to start with Anju and ask a question of all of the panelists. We're going to go in order of Anju, Leandro, and Sarbani. And the first question for our panelists, and you have 2 to 3 minutes so that we can get 3 questions in, is the key word in community networks is community. What are some of the key success factors for community buy-in when deploying a community network, particularly in areas where awareness and literacy levels may be low? So over to you, Anju, for a 2 to 3 minute answer for that, and then we'll hop over to Leandro.
Thanks, Jane. So I work for the Alliance for Affordable Internet, an initiative of the Web Foundation. And our work is all about using a multi-stakeholder approach. And in our line of work, the community matters. And when we do our best to understand stakeholders, participants, users, local community members, and we need their acceptance and willingness to progress our work. And so I keep telling everyone we should never underestimate the communities we work with. Without them, our efforts will fail. I think we really need to understand the effective processes for gaining community buy-in and how to ensure sustainability, especially during disasters. So from my perspective, there is a lack of knowledge on rural communities. I grew up on an island, a small island. I understand the rural landscape, and I worked with farmers and even rural communities, but not everyone has this understanding. When they hear rural, they have this mental picture that it's about cows or fields or wheat or tractors, but they just don't see how community network could possibly fit into a rural environment. And when you're sitting at a desktop or a laptop in urban centers, doesn't mean that you will understand the reality on the ground. I'm not a community network expert like the wonderful people on this panel and working behind the scenes, but I can tell you that there are a few factors I look at when deploying a platform or a technology from my work experience. So for me, it's understanding the people, the environment, the processes. And by processes, I mean legal frameworks, understanding the land rights, because this is a continuous issue within the Pacific context as well, and the type of technology we're deploying. So having a design thinking and a business analysis approach that ensures that people understand the technology is important. And also users are going to be the most important factor when you're deploying. So stakeholder consultations are imperative. So say, for example, when designing community networks, it's important to learn about your users and the people, especially with low literacy levels, and consider all gender identities, which I also spoke about, and some of the panel members spoke in the last few sessions, including persons with disabilities when you're doing your design thinking approach. And for me, because I come from the Pacific, one of the key factors I need to consider is the environment. So lots of tech savvy people fail to consider the environment, particularly when we are dealing with natural disasters. So years ago, when we were involved in deploying telecenters and VSAT technologies in the Pacific, we didn't really consider the landscape. So unfortunately, a tsunami, say, destroyed one of the telecenters. So it's a learning curve, and we learn through experience and failures, but we should try not to repeat the same mistakes. Yeah,
Thank you for that. And you're hitting on that key topic, humans. Leandro, and I also should have said, Leandro has worked with one of the largest community networks in the world called GUIFI, G-U-I-F-I, if you want to take a look online. Leandro, over to you next on that same question about the word community.
Yeah, in fact, I'm connecting through GIFInet nowadays. So my home connection is through a fiber connected to a small community part of GIFInet. We are about 100 people. And we are a urban community network mostly, and we use Wi-Fi and fiber, and I think that buy-in or adoption has to do with having a problem. I mean, when you need some connectivity for some reason, like for instance in the current pandemic situation, because you desperately need to attend lectures, or you have some health issue, you want to be connected, then is when communities realize that they need some infrastructure which allows them to do something meaningful for them. And then, of course, then when the problem is identified and the need is clear, it's a matter of time to find a solution. And then that depends also on what people is around. And well, it's like feeding yourself. You always find a way to feed yourself, and creating a network infrastructure depends also on you, and also on external assistance from others. But I think that the need is the key factor, that because people sometimes is not particularly interested in playing with technology, but they do have real world problems, and this is the main motivating factor. Of course, you need also a community. You need really an existing connection between the people that have their own ways of doing things, and then, well, you need to learn that, and you need to join them and implementing the ways they know how to create other type of or maintain other type of economic, social infrastructures, and then, well, it can be applied to connectivity as well. So no problem. Simply use the power that they already have, and add whatever is needed to get there. It's a matter of time.
Thank you for that. And you've just raised a really key point about one of the problem sets, and looking at what the solutions might be per community. Sarbani, you're up next, and we'd like to hear from you. You're working in some very remote and rural areas. What are you finding are some of the key success factors for community buy-in? And that word community is so key. So over to you, Sarbani. just need you to unmute there, Sarbani, and we'll have you hop in. Can you hear us?
Yes, sorry, I just got disconnected.
That's okay. We're here to talk about connectivity. So over to you on some of the success factors.
Yes. So I have been working in the domain of connecting the unconnected by seeding growth of community networks. And we have learned a lot from the experiences of ours over years. The initial thing that I feel is the most important thing is the trust, gaining trust from the community. And what are the ways by which we can gain trust from the community? Because we are all outsiders, and often they get into an argument with us by asking us that you have connectivity in Mumbai, where I stay, and you also have a smartphone with you. You have the means, you have the power, you have the money, you have the strength. We don't have any of those. Um, so, so gaining that trust is one of the most important factors. I think one of the first steps. I think gaining trust. The second thing that comes up is cooperation and ways by which we need cooperation. Like we should not go there. If we go there and we tell them that, okay, we have to set up the community network here, they don't cooperate. So we have to walk an extra mile with them to tell them that, okay, we are together with you. We will hold your hands and we will set up the connectivity together. And the connectivity is not for us. It is for you people to use it. So that cooperation, and this, I would like to tell you that we have had a lot of experiences on the field in the terms of cooperation that people in the villages were not cooperating with us. In the sense, we would put up the devices get stolen from the village, and this was happening week after week. And it was becoming very expensive for us because the devices were getting stolen. So then we got to understand that the local ISP over there who takes the connectivity to the last mile, who is a category B license holder or a category C license holder, class B or class C license holder, he was getting threatened that we would take away his subscribers, his customer base. And so what we did was that we got these people in a meeting and we tried to make them understand that this infrastructure is an infrastructure for them, so that they can use it later on for acquiring customers, for getting more subscribers into the village. So that is not for us. This is just a research activity of ours, trying to do this together with the community. So cooperation is the second thing. And the third one is the involvement of the people. How do we get the community involved in the connectivity? And that's where I would like to mention that, like what Anju mentioned, that get the people on board, like women, physically disabled people, because these people who are there in the communities are often low literate people. So the first thing that comes to their mind is, we don't have literacy. I don't know how to read and write. Why would I get internet? I don't want internet. But we have to make them involved in the process by trying to tell them the benefits of both offline and online connectivity. That's how they come on board with us. So I think these are the three important things that I work on when I work with them.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you all for those great insights on some of the success factors. We're going to do a bit of a speed round for the next question. So you have 2 to 3 minutes also for this one. This is beyond the local community. What sort of assistance is available from other organizations working nationally, regionally, or globally? Anju, over to you. Speed round, 2 minutes.
So I will mention the partnership and initiatives that we currently have. The A4AI has a partnership with ISOC. And so we're looking at quite a few initiatives for next year. So to solve the ongoing connectivity challenges through design and deployment of community networks. And we're going to be working with ISOC in terms of, doing joint research efforts to support expansion of internet access in underserved regions. And the other one is in partnership with Facebook, APC, and DEF and other partners. We developed the Rural Broadband Connectivity Framework, which will provide a basis for considering and adopting policy approaches, most likely to facilitate the deployment and adoption of new or better broadband infrastructure and services, particularly in, again, underserved rural communities. So from 2021, we will be organizing a series of consultations, workshops, and seminars. And yeah, I would be interested in getting to know who will be interested in doing this work with us, and obviously inviting, using a multi-stakeholder approach, we'll be inviting policymakers from ICT and also telecommunication, but other sectors like the Ministry of Rural Development, even renewable energy, and telcos and operators to develop some tailored solutions. And while we are doing that, we will obviously bring in communities to discuss. Yeah.
Fabulous. And you said some of those keywords, stakeholders and different entities that can help, from companies to nonprofits to quasi-profits and to different government agencies. We're seeing so many different agencies need to work together versus just the telco ministry or the regulator. Okay, Leandro, over to you. What sort of assistance is available from other orgs working across the globe?
Yeah, I would say there is a long list of formal and informal stakeholders that can help, because the problem in the end, sustaining, I mean, not just bootstrapping, but also sustaining a networking infrastructure requires a lot of ingredients. So fortunately, there are many organizations that can help. But I would highlight that for communities that are starting or planning or thinking about it, I think what works best is that there are many other community networks or umbrella organizations in the country, in the region, examples that people might know or might have heard from, and this is the best starting point. It's like a human-to-human contact, and inviting someone to come and talk to you and talk to the community and share how to bootstrap or evolve your needs into an infrastructure, and through those people that already are part of the community of communities is how you can find out the right solution for the right problem. It's a process. So it's a process that has a lot of potential forums, communities to work with on the technical, on the economic, on the policy, on different aspects. So be assured that there's some organization ready to help you, but it's a process, and I would recommend strongly to this human contact to get in touch with other community nearby, because they know the solution. They can help you to go through the right path, which is quite long in the end, but fortunately there are many. I think that we can build a list of pointers to share with the audience, but be assured that there are a lot of resources around.
Thank you. It's the human nets that are going to build the nets. Sarbani, over to you. What other assistance is available around the planet and where you are, actually?
Yes. So first of all, I would like to mention that there are very few funding agencies who really fund for community networks in the world. And I think a few of them, like Internet Society, an Association for Progressive Communications, of which I am a part of, Association for Progressive Communication has a dedicated grant on Community Networks Learning Grant, which is through which we work on the LockNet project, that is the Local Access Networks project. And so that is, so very few organizations. Of course, A4AI is also there, but it is like most of it is to do with a lot of research work on the ground, and so funding comes for such activities. That is one thing that I would like to say. The other thing that partnerships or funding agencies are other local agencies in the country. Like, for example, the ISOC Mumbai chapter, they also work together. They also give us a platform That's very important. And working together on an Asia level, that's how we collaborate together with Internet Society's Asia level coordinator, as well as the other peers. That means in Indonesia, we have Asia Association for Progressive Communication, has its own peers. We have our own peers working in Indonesia, Myanmar, Latin America, and Africa. So these are the locations: Asia, Latin America, and Africa. Other participants or other people from whom we get the funding is local partners or NGOs, non-government organizations that who work on the ground with the community. I think that is a very
Excellent. I think we may have a quick connectivity issue there, but Sarbani, thank you. I think you were wrapping up on the local side, yeah?
Yes, so the local ground partners or the NGOs, they are the ones who are actually working with the people on the ground. And so for getting trust, cooperation, and involvement, these NGOs are very necessary. So these are the three levels. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Back to partnership and collaboration, knowing your local community, working together, community network to community network. Okay, our third question is coming up. You have about 1.5 minutes each or two. What mechanisms are being used to disseminate information and provide assistance to people who want to establish community networks? Are these reaching those in greatest need? And if so, how? So pick which part of that question you want to answer. Anju, back over to you. You're on.
Okay, so to me, this is a great mechanism already to disseminate information. This forum would not have been possible without the partners like DEF, ISOC, APC, A4AI, and also the people working behind the scenes to bring the right people here, because this is where we're building a community of practice and network of like-minded people. So I see this as an opportunity for me even to meet other people who are working on community networks and figuring out how we can work together and support each other. And I guess in terms of just disseminating information, we can say you can use social media to disseminate information. But the key point I want to make is that what kind of information are you providing? And is it useful to the end user or the person that's actually going to read the information? And the work that I did previously in my previous work with farmers, I noticed that community-driven radio programs were more effective. Even though we used Facebook, a majority of the farmers I worked with had access to Facebook to sending information using Facebook, but generally they always referred to the community radio program. So that's one of the things that I would like to do in terms of disseminating. How can we make it work? So the culture is very important for me. So the success at building a collaborative community network or a system is where there is culture of sharing and collaboration. And instead of reinventing the wheel or duplicating efforts, I think it's important for me to find out who is doing what in the area of community network and how do I find ways to collaborate instead of reinventing the wheel. I hope that answers the question.
Spot on. That was lovely. Thank you. And community radio, huge deal. We just used it recently with an Indigenous community in the United States, believe it or not. Okay, Leandro, over to you. Mechanisms to disseminate information and reaching those in greatest need. Is that data getting out there?
Yeah, I think I fully subscribe what Anju was saying, that this is not a competition, this is a collaboration. And everyone in the community is part of a bigger community of those who struggle to build and operate their own infrastructures. So they are happy to share, not because, I mean, not just based on principles, but also because collaboration in the end is an exchange. You bring some training, some help, and you get something back, and you maybe improve your processes. You discover other ways of doing things, and then by solving problems from others, you are solving your own problems. And so community building is also a learning exercise, and it happens all the time. I mean, 2 weeks ago I was in the Woke conference, and there were there were several community networks from many Latin America, and they were sharing their solutions and problems and ways to address them. So you come back with more knowledge by sharing some. So I would definitely like say that the mechanism is mainly collaboration and contribution from each other. For instance, from Gifinet, years ago we developed our own firmware and software for managing the community, and then it was like given to other communities. They made contributions, so now we enjoy better functionality because we did the sharing. So it's really an exchange, because it's not about connecting anyone. It's about self-connecting. It's about building your own ability, and we all together improve community networks by sharing. So collaboration, definitely.
Okay, I love it. Collaboration is an exchange, and it's a virtuous circle here, back and around through the networks, community networks. Sarbani, over to you for that final word here. You've got about 2 minutes.
Yes. Thanks, Jane. I will want to take it from Leandro there, and I would like to mention about the learning grants, community networks learning grants from Association for Progressive Communications, which is a very good way of learning. So if I have a problem in my own community network, I try to solve that problem by learning from others who has also faced a similar problem in their own community network, and we try to replicate. So this learning experience is a very enriching experience. And but also with this, we also last year we also visited a lot of community networks, and there we learned a lot. It's like, how people work together with the community, um, or what are the different ways by which communities can get involved, and like the community radio that Anju mentioned about. I learned a lot from other community networks. Here I would like to mention about from the Asia peers, Serverlots in Bangalore. I learned a lot from them by visiting their craft center and the community network. So the learning and exchanging knowledge is one big way of disseminating information. Apart from it, I would also want to say that we should also build a consortia, because all the major players who are working, the funding agencies and the people who are working on the ground, I think there has to be a consortium, and by which we don't have to reinvent the wheel always. And because it is like DEF and other community networks that are working in the Asia level, we all might be facing similar problems because we are in the same continent. And I think if we all work together, rather not reinvent the wheel again and again, it will be something very useful and productive for a long period of time. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarbani, Leandro, and Anju. We have about a minute to go, and then we're going to share some videos. I want to quickly just say, you are all talking about the importance of walking in somebody else's shoes, knowing the environment. Collaboration, as Leandro had said, is an exchange. Circling back over to Sarbani with respect to sharing that data, and perhaps a takeaway from the CNX here is, let's get a list together, hold more of these exchanges so that we can bring more people together. I'm going to turn it over to the team helping us run the event, and I think we're going to show some videos. So over to the team.
Yeah, just give us 10 seconds. Yagya, can you just try playing the videos? It might just take a couple of seconds.
And I think one of the other key things I would just take away from the panel is things don't have to be so formal. Informality works. We all know different people in the field, and it doesn't matter your level of literacy with respect to what you can bring to the table. So it's bringing a very inclusive community together, which is very important. The human to human, the human networks building the technical networks. And don't forget community radio.
Can you double click on the name of the file? Maybe that may work. Or right click and play. Because I can see that it's playing, but within the icon.
Give us all a sec out there in Zoom land. We're working on getting the video up.
Jane, can we request you to continue the discussion while it plays? Maybe we can pause. Yeah.
Absolutely. And just hop in and let me know if we want to pause. So for all of the folks who have joined us and for our panelists, we have some Q&A, I believe. So do we have anything coming in from out there from our participants on the Q&A? I don't see anything in the chat yet.
Well, maybe there was one question in the Q&A about the focus on rural communities, but I'm connected in an urban community. And yes, sometimes the good thing about being part of a urban community network is that we can explore whatever we want. For instance, I have IPv6, which I cannot get from a commercial provider. And well, I could play with it and realize its current development, or we do our own video conferencing locally. And it depends on people having the need and someone willing to provide that, do an experiment. And so we experiment things. We have fixed IPs. We have symmetric connectivity. We can decide how much we spend on expanding the network or in enhancing the bandwidth of our connections. So I think there's a great opportunity if you want to be part of on the decisions on your infrastructure, that's a way to go. Otherwise, you pay and you get whatever they offer, but you can create the offer yourself and be part of it. So I think it's a very nice way of experimenting, and because it's something that you can definitely build on your own. In rural areas, of course, because the motivation is that sometimes you don't get anyone to provide you connectivity, but in the city, it's again, you want to be part of it. You want to do it differently, and it's possible to do. The proof is out there.
Yeah, and that's a really good point, Leandro. I think for those of you that are joining us, there are a lot of community networks that are in urban areas, and there's Guifi in Spain. We know of another Tunapanda and partly an ISOC, APC, and other different entities coming together to build that. Guifi was part of it a couple of years ago. That's in Nairobi. But New York City Mesh, we've had people crawling across rooftops in New York City. And to your point, Leandro, they're experimenting with 6 gigahertz now. It's not just 2.4 and 3, 2.4 and sort of 5 gigahertz as far as the traditional Wi-Fi, but 6 gigahertz opened up during COVID. It's been very interesting to see what the pandemic has done to also create a forcing effect and for people to realize that, gosh, affordability and access in big cities is also highly limited. And to your point about experimenting, I know that the FCC often talks to New York City Mish about some of the work that they're doing to get their views on whether there's interference or how things are going, or if something's coming through from the regulatory side in a coherent manner. You know, to that effect that you were talking about the importance of experimentation, we're hearing more and more about community radio also, and tying into, and Anju mentioned this earlier. Anju, if you don't mind, can you give people a little bit more about some of your experience working with farmers and why radio was so widely disseminated? And maybe there's a connection there between community radio and community networks. We've seen that actually as a big driver in Mexico with some of the folks that we've worked with from Redes Comunica. a group of people also setting up a network with something called Marika, which is an indigenous network in Oaxaca, Mexico. But it was community radio that helped drive some of the focus on community networks. So it was interesting to see that connection. Anju, have you seen that as well?
Yes, so I think I will bring it back to what Sarbani said in terms of trust. And I was involved in deploying a market information system for farmers in rural communities. And when we considered the low literacy level, we didn't realize, because of the low literacy levels, I mean, you can't just give someone a technology and expect them to just use it. So we tried to understand what would be the real need for that particular community. And these farmers are intelligent and smart, but when it comes to something new, they may not be able to use it. So I think with community radio networks, it was quite critical because we worked in Fiji, but also tried to introduce it to in Vanuatu as well. But I think gaining the trust, it was, for me, it was important to raise awareness in their local language. And then when we considered consultation process in local language, we also designed surveys that were designed in local language. So I think these were some of the important points, but when it came to community radios, they already knew. And so it was easy for us to disseminate the information. But it wasn't just about community radios. We also looked at, so I worked on developing policies in simple language so that farmers understood the policies and how it actually applied to their work. And when we looked at a community process, we also involved the kids and the women during our participatory approaches. And so having, community champions who understood not one medium of communication like Facebook or internet, but also radio, to raise awareness on some of the challenges and benefit was very key. And it sort of gave me a different perspective on how to actually work in the communities and how to deal with some of the challenges that they face.
That's a great point about the community champion too, or champions. We often say that we don't, as an organization working with partners, that we don't want to be the single point of failure as a partner. So we want to build that broad base of the pyramid. And people do often think they overlook people in rural areas just because they're living in a countryside, as though they can't do certain things. And it's very interesting to me that people have that mindset. It's often, go ahead.
Sorry, some people, not everyone, but I think, having that community champion and the person, because he or she understands the reality on the ground, is very important. And you can't just come as an outsider and pretend that you know everything. You have to make sure that, you understand what they are bringing on the table as well.
Yeah, if you go into a rural community and try and explain, we're here to help, we know better than you do, that can create quite a moment where they just wait you out. It's time for you to leave. Sarbani, we're interested in what you know also from that rural, the work you're doing in rural communities. What's been your experience when you come in as the person from the outside?
Yeah, so the experience has been that initially they just don't talk to me. They just look the other side. It's like, you have come, okay, what have you come for? There are some curiosity around, but later, after a few visits, and when we have these ongoing discussions, I have seen that because there is no connectivity there, so as soon as my vehicle reaches the nearest town, there is someone who already spreads the information within the village that Sarbani madam is coming into the village. So I have seen her in the nearby town. So by the time I reach the village, people are already there. They told that, yes, you have already reached. I heard that you were buying a bottle of water from the nearby town. So that's the communication between them. And I have also contemplated a lot on like how to approach people, in the sense some women I have seen they have they started crying that no one has actually come and asked them something. No one has come into their house and sat with them in their modest place where they, and have shared a glass of water with them. And sometimes some such small things, I think, matter a lot. And yeah, so these are some of the things that I have experienced. And I often think of taking back gifts for the people in the village, but they tell me that no, please don't bring gifts for us, because once you stop coming to the village, then we will already get so used to these gifts that when you don't come anymore, then we will start craving for them. So yeah, that's some of the relationship building, and yeah, it comes.
Yeah, it's that trust building. It's
Yes.
so critical. But it's you've made a really interesting point about listening to people and going in on their terms, and I think this is so critical. I was in a small village below a big mountain in Greece, where the incumbent operator had decided that, it wasn't as interesting to them to provide service, or they couldn't get the return on investment. As many people who may be joining us might know, is that with communities of 5,000 and under, a lot of the traditional operators can't get their return on investment. So it's been a longstanding issue for many of us who've been doing this for a long time, where we look at the lack of connectivity in rural, remote, and urban underserved areas. And it's been part of a systemic problem with the companies. There are great companies helping out, but there are still some that keep the lock on universal service funds from regulatory policy side. But in this village in Greece, where there wasn't a lot of connectivity, there's a community network, Sarantaporo, and they're doing a lot of work in the village. And what we watched happen, which was really fascinating as far as the trust building, was building that big base of the pyramid of expertise. But it was also reinvigorating some of the retired people, older people, to feel more useful and part of the community again, because they were the people going on the rooftops. There were grandmothers who were helping cut the wires and crimp the wires, and we stayed with them. And one grandmother came to me, and we were using Google Translate because my Greek is really bad. And we were laughing because she said, well, I need to have you here so I can get a router, so I can be part of this network, so I can bring my family back in, her grandchildren. So for part of the community building was bringing those people together in the community who felt like they were doing something with a purpose. And so that's been interesting. Anju, did you see this when you were working in some rural communities, that how do you create that sense of purpose and collaboration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think the value proposition is very important. And how do you make them believe that what you are bringing to the community is important and it will make a huge difference to them? I have to admit that certain things that I've done in the past, in my work experience, I've failed. But honestly, I've learned how to deal with it. I've learned how to deal with communities. I've learned how to deal with even policymakers who don't understand what the reality is with the community. So because of that learning process, I tried to make sure that anything I do, I don't repeat the same mistakes. Or the other thing that I want to say is that find someone who really understands that community. And it doesn't have to be someone necessarily from the community, but say someone like this community of network, right? We've got a good community of practice. There are amazing people working behind the scene, working with the communities, working with the policies, stakeholders, whatever. But I think if we bring these people and try to learn from them and try to understand how do we make sure that we don't repeat the same mistake is critical for me. And so I think, yeah, I don't want to repeat the same thing. I want it to be a learning curve. And I think it's all about knowledge sharing to me. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But I will Sarbani and Leandro say a few things.
No, this is great. And I will say, I think we now know from our team here that is helping us with the technical issues that there is a great opportunity for us to show the videos right now. And we'll come back to a quick wrap up from each of you, just a minute from all of us to wrap after we see the videos. So team, help us with the videos. Over to you. Just checking in with Osama. Are the videos playing?
I think it's playing. Sometimes it
Excellent.
takes a bit
A
of
sec or two.
buffering. That's why it comes a little late.
No problem. Okay, we're not seeing the videos yet.
Yeah, it's
Give it a
coming.
double click.
Yeah, we're trying.
Yeah. Yes.
For the audience, we're working on getting the videos up for you. If you're joining us, this is a great partnership panel about collaboration, working with different organizations to help build community networks. And maybe while we're waiting for the videos to come up, here we go.
मेरा नाम यश यादव है। मैं मॉडर्न चिल्ड्रन हाई सेकेंडरी स्कूल पढ़ता हूँ। मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा अच्छा पढ़ना लगता है और खेलना। मेरे घर पे कंप्यूटर नहीं है। मैं इधर आ जाता हूँ कंप्यूटर सीखने। भैया बहुत अच्छे लोग हैं इधर और सिखाते भी अच्छे से हैं और मैं समझ भी जाता हूँ उनकी बात।
Wireless in Unlicensed Spectrum is a project run by Digital Empowerment Foundation. The project is an advocacy to establish the importance of access to internet so that communities living in rural and remote areas could exercise their rights and have access to media.
यहाँ पे कंप्यूटर पढ़ने के बाद थोड़ा अच्छा लग रहा है और इधर ज़्यादा बहुत कुछ सिखा रहे हैं। इतना हमारे स्कूल में नहीं सिखाते अभी।
Nepal Wireless Networking Project was born from grassroots level by connecting Nange village of Western Nepal in 2002. The villagers then had no idea about internet and most of them had never seen computers. All the villagers living in the region are subsistent farmers. The initial goal was to build just local communication system between 6 remote villages using Wi-Fi technology. However, the network has grown into a big wireless network now. All of the networked villages are located in the Himalayan region of Annapurna, Dhaulagiri, Manaslu and Gauri Shankar. The project is run formally by E-Networking Research and Development, which is an affiliate member of APT.
Geographical feature of the mountains of Nepal is the great challenge to bring internet in the rural areas. For example, bringing internet in this village called Tikut is not that easy. First, we have built a base station in Pokhara. From Pokhara, we have built another relay station in Mohore, which is 34 kilometers from Pokhara. And then from Mohore, it goes to another relay station called Khopra, which is at the elevation of 3,700 meters. And from Khopra, it is connected to this village to Tikot, which is 11 kilometers far. So it is a great challenge, but we have overcome the challenges. And another challenge is the power. In every relay station, we have to put solar power, enough solar power to power the equipment. Now this village has, this whole village has free Wi-Fi in this region, and the villagers are using the Wi-Fi using the mobile.
The connectivity is largely changing rural schools and communities. The project is providing e-learning and e-library materials to students and teachers in rural schools. Also, the project has connected 8 rural clinics to a city hospital in Kathmandu. Local health workers use internet to consult specialists in Kathmandu whenever they have patients with serious health problems.
त्यस्तो अप्ठ्यारो केसहरू आउँदाखेरि हामीलाई अलिकति के होला कसो होला भनेर मनमा हुन्छ नि हैन त्यस्तो बाटो पनि हामी ढुक्क हुन्छौँ किनभने हाम्रो पछाडी कोही छ है हामीलाई केही अप्ठ्यारो पर्यो भने हामीले हाम्रो पछाडी डाक्टरहरू हुनुहुन्छ हामीले सोध्न सकिन्छ उहाँहरूको सल्लाह लिन सकिन्छ भनेर हामीलाई एकदम ढुक्क हुन्छ.
Students, teachers and villagers who once used to be isolated now surf the net and are learning globe-savvy skills and information. Villagers can post the information about their products for sale, including goats, buffaloes, honey, potato, jam and paper in online bulletin board. The project has also provided internet service to the trekkers in 10 community lodges on the trekking trails started by the communities. After connecting the first few villages in 2002, the wireless network has grown into a big network now that connects more than 175 remote villages in 15 districts of Nepal. Financial support came from many individual supporters and local communities for the expansion of the network. Asia-Pacific Telecommunity is the big contributor for Nepal Wireless Networking Project. APT supported the project under APT J3 and APT J2 program in 2009, 2011 and 2013 to expand the network to more remote villages and to start pilot projects for tele-teaching, telemedicine and software development for video conferencing. Recently, under APT J3 program, the project installed solar power centers called Village Internet Shop in 10 villages. The Internet Shop is one-stop center to provide as many ICT services as possible as well as training for rural people. Also, the project aims to make as many rural people as possible digitally literate. Under APT J3 program, the project also set up trekkers tracking system in Annapurna region of Nepal. The tracking system helps to track the trekkers along the Himalayan trails as they pass through repeater stations connected to the internet. Thus, the project has become able to solve challenges mountain people had been facing. It is trying its best to help solve the communication barrier through internet, to improve the quality of education in the rural schools through e-education and e-library program, to bring highly needed health service through telemedicine and to increase the digital literacy among the rural people. The villagers are very thankful for the support of APT.
Selama 3 hari ini, Common Room bersama ICT Watch, APG, Awinet, dan relawan TIK baru menyelenggarakan workshop untuk preparation Rural ICT Camp 2020. Nah, selain kita ngebahas beberapa agenda program, kita juga merancang buku panduan infrastruktur internet berbasis komunitas. Workshop yang berjalan selama 3 hari ini sangat seru dan inspiratif banget.
Alhamdulillah kemarin selama 3 hari mengikuti kegiatan workshop ya dengan kawan-kawan APSI, relawan TIK dan Common Room untuk untuk membahas acara ICT Camp di Ciptagelar. Pokoknya kegiatannya menarik banget, inspiratif. Mudah-mudahan acara yang akan diadakan terrealisasi dengan sesuai dengan yang diharapkan.
Thank you very much for those great videos. I think we have about 5 minutes left. For those joining us, this is the excellent panel on partnership and collaboration for community networks. We have Anju from A4AI. We have Leandro from, who's a professor, but also from the GuifiNet. And we have Sarbani, who's been working with Graham Marg. So team, about a minute each. Oh, and thank you for those in the chat about the inspirational perspective on those videos. It's really amazing to just see what people are doing out there on the planet to connect people. And it gives you a bit of strength to move forward to do what you could do to help build more community networks or support them. So I'm going to ask each of our panelists in less than a minute, how would you sum up some of the topics we've been discussing today on partnership and collaboration? Anju, you're first. Give us your soundbite.
Okay, so to me, community buy-in is definitely important, but it requires a multi-stakeholder approach and a bottom-up approach. So it's equally important to invite people who understand the technical expertise, but also our investors, so private public financial investments, and our government support systems in providing even a favorable policy and regulatory environment. And I also think that it's important to bridge the gap between policymakers and the communities, because this is something that sometimes is the missing component. And it's not just about collaboration, but having adequate resources. So if we were to move forward and to ensure sustainability, I think it's important that national, regional organizations and globally, I think it's important to ask, what do we have and what do we really need? And perhaps there's a way to share common resources, such as tools, technical expertise, funding, or even intangible resources like knowledge and culture. I will leave it at that. Thanks.
Excellent. Leandro, over to you. Your final words.
Yeah, I would say that we typically talk about the unconnected, but the unconnected have, everyone has its own way of doing things. And in urban areas, we are more disempowered because we have money. Sometimes we just buy and don't really understand how things are done. But in rural areas, definitely people know how to do everything. And then it's just like showing how the networking is a solution for some of the problems they have, and then they find a way to go. And sometimes, like in the video from Mahabir, there is a missing ingredient, and then someone local knows what is missing, and then you can accelerate a process that would happen anyway sooner or later. And that's, I think, the power of collaboration. But I mean, communities, especially rural, are fully capable of delivering their solutions.
Thank you, Leandro. Sarbani, we're going to turn over to you. What are your final thoughts and words?
Yes, thanks, Jane. Connecting the unconnected by seeding community networks to grow should be a completely bottom-up approach. And it should be left to the community to understand how they want the connectivity to be. Do they want it for their day-to-day lives? Do they want it 24/7? Or do they want an offline mesh network? So it is completely should be left to the community. We should not enforce ourselves on them that, oh yeah, we need connectivity, you need connectivity. No, it's not that. And we often undermine the local communities. We actually undermine their, we think that they are low literate people, they don't have the expertise, they don't have the knowledge. But given a situation like Leandro mentioned, like given a situation that they have to create something, they have to bring in something that is useful for them. So they have all the means to do that. So I think we need to follow these things. Of course, we need funding from external agencies. That's how we can expand. We can go into many more communities, but it has to be a grounded approach and also approach wherein communities should be involved in it and we should not undermine the local communities.
Thank you very much, Sarbani. If you've just joined us, we're wrapping up a CNX panel, topic 9, on partnership and collaboration for community networks. My name is Jane, and I'm with the Internet Society, and we've just heard from Anju Mangal, who's from Fiji originally. Yay, an island. Often we don't get people from island nations coming in to talk about the importance of connectivity, and Anju's with A4AI. Leandro Navarro, who knows a lot about the Wi-Fi network, has worked with it, but also is a professor, works with APC, and is involved in the IETF. And Sarbani, who's done great work with IIT Bombay, Graham Marg, and now with APC. We've been talking about the importance of working together as partners in order to help build community networks. And some of the key insights that the team has provided is something you might want to take a look at if you're just joining us. But to wrap up, I would say that we've heard a great deal about the importance of walking in other people's shoes, which is, or not shoes or sandals. It's making sure you're not assuming you know better than the people that you're working with. Collaboration is important for building out community networks and connectivity, but you really do need to listen to the people in the local environment to help experiment, get the connectivity deployed, but also to bring in other partners because you want that pyramid base of partnership to be strong and diverse so that you've got sustainability. And try things out, try new technology, as Leandro was telling us. Thank you so much to our panelists. Thank you to the Digital Empowerment Foundation for 10 years of great work. And we're grateful as a partner as well at the Internet Society. And thank you all for tuning in. So we're going to wrap up here and thank you all. And stay tuned for the next session. So over to the team.
Thanks, Jane. We have a short break now and we'll be playing a video and we'll be back for the next session that starts.